Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. This is our Monday, Thursday live stream with Derek Parker at DParkOK on social media. I'm Rylan Stiles at Rylan_Stiles on social media. You can find Derek also at the OKC Dream Team, where both of us are over there on Patreon, and his own YouTube channel, Derek-Parker, where he covers the draft extensively, which will be very important for Oklahoma City as they own a ton of draft picks in this loaded 2026 NBA draft. And you can find both of us over at thunderonssi.com. On the Locked On Podcast Network, you everydayers have made this network the number one sports podcast network in the world. So we appreciate you for that. Derek, this Thunder team is 17-1, sitting atop of the NBA. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. We've got some comments over here about the Jing stock. I'm curious to see what happens today. You know, anything can happen. There's no more to sell presently, but could we see some buying? Time will tell.
Time will tell, which is a great tease for what's ahead. So we're going to recap the week that was for Oklahoma City, preview the week that is for Oklahoma City. Plus, we're going to have our stock watch episode. And I am playing hurt today, as Coach Boehm says. I do have allergies a little bit. More importantly than that, though, I'm only operating with one ear today. I have a left ear that will not pop. I'm waiting for it to pop. I've consulted with Dr. Parker. You've helped me out on how to get this issue resolved. And so we're just waiting. Maybe it'll pop during the show. That'd be a fun experience. But Derek, what's your biggest takeaway from this week?
My biggest takeaway has been the playmaking and more so game managing leap that we've seen from Shai. It would have been so easy for the reigning MVP, reigning finals MVP, to look at his last season and say, I'll just go and do that again. I don't need to work on things to get better. I'm the best player, as voted on by the media, in the world. I have won the championship. I could easily just go do that again next year. And in the most Shai fashion, he has gotten better yet again. It has very clearly been a better product from Shai this year, despite him having taken home some hardware last year. The playmaking has been unbelievable. He's doing more of the superstar-esque passing and some of the flashier stuff. Last night, there was a really, really nice cross-court dime to Isaiah Joe. Was Luka Jokic-esque. And of course, those things aren't happening on like a play-to-play basis. But he has certainly become a better playmaker, and I think a better game manager. He is missing the easy reads less and less. He is averaging a career low in turnovers right now, dating all the way back to his rookie season. He has again boosted his assists per game. The gravity with which he's playing, he's still scoring 32 points per game, and he's assisting others. He just looks like an unbelievable player in general, but the passing has been really, really noticeable, and especially last week.
Yeah, and Shai starts out both of our top takeaways for this very reason, his continued evolution as a player, and a guy who could have just decided, you know what, not only was I the MVP, but I was the leader of a championship team. What else is there to accomplish this summer? But instead, he's continued to be better as a playmaker. You mentioned all of that. I've loved his live dribble passing and his ability to set up this team in the half court. It's been great for Oklahoma City, but also his three-point shooting has been awesome for Oklahoma City. And you look at his stats overall right now, he's flirting with 50, 40, 90. He's at 54% from the floor, 91% from three, and 89.8% from the free throw line. But if you really like hone in to this recent stretch from him from beyond the arc, and you'll see that like since November 9th, he's up to 50% shooting from three on 5 attempts per game. Like that's insane. That's wild from SGA. And we spent all summer, Derek, discussing like, okay, here's the deal with Shai. Yes, it feels like he's reached the pinnacle, the mountaintop, but we have felt that way about Shai for the last 5 years. And every year he always comes back better. And these were the two areas that we talked about that if he were to maximize them this season, the Thunder could be even better positioned come this postseason. And if this trend continues from three, because the playmaking trend, that's not going to go away. Like that's just who he is. And the only thing that will change with the playmaking trend is that he actually gets rewarded for it because he's having so many potential assists right now. And he's setting guys up, wonderfully that eventually they're going to cash those shots in. He's going to see a bump in his assists per game, even more than he already has. But if the three-point shot continues to fall in this manner, both off the catch and also, more importantly, off the dribble, then this team is way better off come playoff time, which is crazy to say because, again, they won the championship last year.
Yeah, I think the shot just generally looks smoother. I think the step back has looked a little more succinct. He's maybe not getting the same distance, but he's still getting enough to clear some coverage and get it over the contest. So his shooting has been unbelievable so far. Again, over 40% on the season. Now, my next takeaway, I just want to read some stats here. The Thunder have stat time. The Thunder have the best net rating all time through 18 games. This is not new. They had the best net rating in NBA history last year. If it holds, it would be the best ever again, beating out themselves last year. But the kicker, the difference between OKC and number 2 Houston is the same as Houston and number 12 Orlando. Crazy gap there. Even better, the Thunder have the best defensive rating in basketball. Newsflash, they're good at defense. The gap between them and Detroit, who is second, is the same as Detroit and the number 21 ranked Milwaukee Bucks in terms of defense. This is all, of course, while boasting 17-1, the second best start in history, only behind the 24-0 Warriors without Jalen Williams. You lose words for things like this, but I feel some of these stats really put it into perspective just how dominant this Thunder team has been. I mean, they have been unbelievable overall, but that defensive one where them and number 2 is the same as 2 and number 21, that is unreal.
Dude, those are some great stats. I'm glad that you brought those to the table to really contextualize what a great start that this is. I think that sometimes, because we expected the Thunder to be the 1 seed again in the West, and we expected them to find a lot of regular season success, we can often gloss over the fact that, well, they're just doing their job. It's like, no, they're not just doing their job. They are utterly and historically dominating this season. And that brings me to my second takeaway. We spent this whole offseason talking about how, as the champion, you're going to get everybody's best punch every single night. And we even said, the Thunder, who are the kings of 0-0, who are the kings of 1 of 82, whenever they played the 2 games last year against Boston, even they had a different level of energy, a different level of intensity, a different form of themselves in those 2 regular season games against the champs. And the Thunder are still getting everybody's best punch. The problem is the Thunder force you to play at such an unsustainable level that after you throw that best punch, if you let up even a little bit, if you give them even a small crease, they're going to take advantage of it and they're going to be able to punish you for it. You look at that Utah game, everything was going right for the Utah Jazz in that first quarter. They were shooting the lights out of the gym. They forced the Thunder defense to be a step slow. They forced the Thunder into some bad offense at times in that first quarter. And yet, the avalanche happens in that third quarter. Shai is able to rest in the fourth quarter, and they utterly blow out the Utah Jazz, who, of course, are not a good team, but they've done this the entire season where they absorb your best punch and they throw an even harder counter punch. And I really believe that, the shortened off season, the target on your back, all these different tropes, which are tropes for a reason because it's bared out through NBA history, they don't impact this Thunder team. They don't impact this Thunder season.
Yeah, I fully agree. This Thunder team is just such a buzzsaw, and I think that stems from the defense. The margin for error for the opposition is just so tough when this defense is that good and they can turn that defense into offense. But there's also nights where the Thunder actually shoot well, and then the margin for error gets even slimmer for these teams. So fully agree with that takeaway. My last one was really, really complimentary with these last few stats. I do want to say OKC does seem to officially be out of the woods of these long stretches of easy games. Not that they can't continue this type of historic production, but this game versus Minnesota, the Western Conference Finals rematch, does feel like the start of what should be a harder part of their schedule. And then later in the season, they have a pretty compact, pretty hard schedule just in general. So even in the next few games, Minnesota, Portland again, then Golden State, Minnesota again, mid-December, back-to-back games against the Spurs, who are feisty in late December. And from there, it only gets tougher. So while they could maintain their production, I would expect everything to dip just a little bit as they take on tougher teams that are maybe a little more hungry. They have played some pretty rough teams a few times, Kings 3 times, Pelicans twice. So would expect the schedule to get tougher from here.
Yeah, the schedule ratcheting up, I think, is going to be a lot of fun to see how they handle it, especially this week with the NBA Cup, which we'll talk about coming up. But my third takeaway was that like it continues to be just shocking how little the overall health of the team is impacting their play, because any other team would utilize the fact that you're without an all NBA player and you're without your second best scorer, that you're without your bench player, your best bench scorer in Aaron Wiggins for 9 straight games. And they'd utilize that as a crutch of like, we give, for example, Denver so much credit for like, well, Christian's out and Aaron Gordon is out and like their level of play dropping off. You know what, that's expected. And the fact that they're not winning games in the fashion, losing to the Kings, for example, this weekend. And like we use that as an excuse for them, rightfully so, because like that's two massive pieces that are lost. And you look around the NBA and we do give the benefit of the doubt to teams who are banged up. And again, rightfully so. But somehow, some way for this team, even though we know that J-Dub is consensusly a top 20 player in this league and that J-Dub is an all-NBA player and the number 2 scoring option, they not only find ways to win, they find ways to still be historically great. And it just is another feather in the cap of the claim that the Thunder are the deepest, most talented team in the league. And it's not even a claim anymore. It's just a fact that they're the deepest, most talented team, and they've bared that out to start this season.
Yeah, and I've said this on this exact stream before, but I don't know if there's going to be a point where every single player on this roster is going to be healthy. And I don't say that from a negative standpoint. I say that to mean this Thunder team is getting valuable, proven winning games right now without these players. And I think that very well could be the case come postseason. You play 82 games. It really ratchets up intensity-wise in the postseason. And I think the Thunder are going to need to have had this experience of playing down guys. Now, not saying that's going to be Jalen Williams or anyone in like the primary rotation, but there's a chance that some of these rotational ancillary guys are just going to miss games. It is the modern NBA. The entire league across the board is seeing this right now. So it's such a luxury to not only be winning these games right now, but to just be getting this experience for the postseason, which I think they're going to need.
Yeah, they're for sure going to need that. Now let's take one last look at last week and let's see where we were right and where we were wrong about this week. We both had the Jazz crew as like the nerdy team to watch and the interesting pieces of Laurie and Keontae George and Ace Bailey. They had it going in the first quarter, and I think that they were the most fun group to watch of last week, which isn't a high bar at all. But of course, of the bad teams that they played, like the Jazz were very fun, and the Portland Trailblazers got hurt a little bit because of the fact that they had no healthy guard in that game on Sunday. We also saw that we both predicted 4-0. We were both right on that. I thought that the best team of all time talk would ranch it up over the week, and I think that it has. So we'll count that as a right. You also thought that the Clippers pick talk would kind of become more mainstream as a storyline. I think that it has, so we were right on those two things. I said that the Pelicans game would be the most boring game on the docket. It absolutely was. I mean, that game was over at tip-off. They were historically great, scoring 49 points in that first quarter. This was an absolute nail job by me on the prediction. And then I believe that the Blazers' revenge game was the best storyline of the week. And you saw it. And the reason I'm saying that this is right there is because we saw this team play a little bit out of character on Sunday in a good way, where like, SGA gets an and one, sits on the ground and just starts screaming with joy. He hits a layup to go up 10. Portland calls a timeout during that run, and he runs to the bench, leaps in the air, does a 360 and lands on the bench in excitement. And like they clearly took that game with a different sort of mindset, with a different sort of energy, a different sort of passion. And I think that it's clear, like their actions speak louder than words. Like they did care about that Blazers game. So I will say that we were right on that.
Yeah, 100%. It was just a energetic, like you said, a little bit out of character in a very positive way. And just a fun basketball game in general.
We were wrong on a couple things, though. I did call the Blazers game the best game of the week. I'm going to say I was wrong on that. I think that the best game was probably that Jazz game, the Kings game, maybe, making Shai play the fourth quarter. It just wasn't the Blazers game. That game was kind of just a ho-hum game. So I was wrong on that. Derek called the Kings game the most boring game. I would not consider the Kings game the most boring game whenever Shai got to play the fourth quarter. So I'll say that you were wrong on that. And then that's only two that we're definitively wrong on. This last one, I just had to come up with something. else that we could be wrong about to not just sound like we got everything right. You did wonder if J-Dub could be back against the Kings, and he still hasn't played yet. So I guess we were wrong about that. But again, you were just kind of wondering. You weren't like predicting he'd be back. So we weren't even truly wrong on that. It's just that, like, again, we had to find something to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to slide that out there. We were past the reevaluation window in that Kings game, and I still want to just kind of keep it out there. Like, we haven't gotten any new information yet. I'm not saying it's going to happen. There's no inside info here, but I mean, it's going to happen at some point, and I thought maybe this would be an opportunity. There will be opportunities moving forward, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting tomorrow night when the first injury report comes out for Minnesota, because to the best of my knowledge, like, even though the NBA Cup championship doesn't count in the standings or in the individual stats, I believe that it counts as a game played when it comes to the award requirements. So technically speaking, if Jalen Williams were to play Wednesday and then play the rest of the season and the Thunder made the NBA Cup championship, he then would be eligible for the end of the season awards. Again, to the best of my knowledge, with what's going on behind the scenes there. I don't know that he's going to play on Wednesday. I have no clue when he's going to come back, but I would say wait until the end of Wednesday to say definitively that he is going to be out of the contention for the end of the season awards as you look at the 65 game requirement. And again, even if he played Wednesday, it'd still be highly in doubt because he has zero margin of error in terms of missing games, and they'd have to make the NBA Cup championship yet again, which would be a little bit difficult, of course, for this team. However, the Thunder do control their own destiny, Derek, in this NBA Cup week. They sit atop the Western Conference Group A pool play standings, and they have the Timberwolves and Suns on deck. They put themselves in a great position here. Simply if they just win out, obviously they're going to be in. They're going to be a lock for advancing and winning the pool and going to the knockout stage. But even if they negligibly lost one of these two games, where it was a point differential game that didn't hurt you at all, or hardly hurt you, of course, because it had to hurt you a little bit to lose, but it was a close loss is what I'm trying to say. They'd still be in line for that wild card spot and still go to the knockout round of the NBA Cup tournament. So I'm really interested to see how they handle this and what this team looks like in this NBA Cup. This week, I think, will be a lot of fun to watch for the Thunder. We're going to preview all of that coming up. But Derek, 17-1 start, sitting atop the NBA right now. The only team really jockeying for position is the 14-2 Detroit Pistons. This is a crazy, crazy outcome for Oklahoma City, considering all of their adversity they've had to battle through, and just what a time that this is to cover the Thunder, to watch the Thunder, to be around this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an unbelievable product. People say it all the time, but if you have the opportunity to watch this game on TV, come out and watch a game in person, do it, because we are truly witnessing some of the best individual and team performances that I've ever seen in quite a few years doing this. So, unbelievable basketball team. Can I do one more overarching where we were right?
Yeah.
Since we've started weekly superlatives, I have guessed the record perfectly. I guessed their one loss and picked it to be the Blazers. And we didn't start this early in the season, so I didn't pick undefeated for the first few weeks. But other than that, I've also nailed the undefeated one. So maybe something to watch out for as I predict the next few games. See if I'm right or if I'm wrong moving forward. But so far, perfect on the year.
Derek Sherdam here, perfect on the year. And you look at the standings, Derek, they're already 4 games up of the number 2 seeded Los Angeles Lakers, who of course are tied for that 2 seed in the loss column with Denver and Houston at 4. They're 5 games up, of the Rockets, of the Spurs, 5.5 games up of the Suns. They're already building up quite the cushion in the Western Conference, even compared to the Pistons, who are only 3 games up of Cleveland at 3 and 2.5 games up of Toronto, who we don't expect Toronto to still hold on to a top 3 seed. But still, like there's such a higher margin of error for this team, especially considering that we expect them to keep on winning.
Yeah, and that truly is important, not only because, of course, they're going to keep winning, and it seems like everybody else at this point is playing for second. Like, how are the Thunder going to lose this many games? Of course, the schedule gets harder. They can lose games, but the cushion already feels like they can hold on to it. And secondly, it's not a given that it will shake out this way, but their top 2 contenders in the West, being the Denver Nuggets and the Houston Rockets, could be 2 and 3 and could face each other before seeing the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. So that would be massive. Again, not saying it's going to shake out. If the regular season ended today, that's actually not how it would go. But If the Rockets continue to have one of the better net ratings in the NBA and the Nuggets get their guys back and go on another winning streak, it could end up with them at 2-3 and them seeing each other ahead of OKC, which would be not so great for those teams and pretty good for Oklahoma City.
And a little bit of breaking news here on the show, as we get every Monday afternoon, the awards for the week. Shai is the player of the week for the Western Conference. And, winning this award yet again and being nominated every single week, it really does put him in line to next Monday be crowned as the player of the month for the Western Conference. And it's much deserved to see SGA take home that player of the week award in the West. In the East, it was Donovan Mitchell for the player of the week out there.
60% from the field in a 4-0 stretch when he is the reigning MVP. He is playing guard. 60% from the field is a good line for a center, efficiency-wise. That is absurd. 6.5 assists per game. Obviously, the playmaking league we talked about came largely this week. Like, we saw it completely put together in its entirety. So, unbelievable week, as you touched on, unbelievable month for the reigning MVP, and it seems like it's still only getting better from here somehow.
Yeah, he edges out the other nominees, which was Santi Aldama from Memphis, Luka Doncic, De'Aaron Fox, James Harden, and Nikola Jokic. And I will say the NBA communications page accidentally put De'Aaron Fox still in Sacramento, which was kind of funny on the nominees, but he's actually, of course, in San Antonio. But Shai, 60% from the floor, great efficiency, 31 points per game, 6.5 assists per game this week for SGA, and a 4-0 week for Oklahoma City. What will their record be this week? What will be the best games to watch this week? How will they fare in the NBA Cup pool play as it wraps up this week on Feast Week? We'll get into all of that and our stock watch around the NBA and Oklahoma City, all coming up. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, here talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, their 17-1 start, and so much more with Derek Parker at DPark. On social media, you can find me at Rylan_Stiles. Derek, a 3-game week this week. Minnesota on Wednesday after 2 days off. Everyone has off for Thanksgiving in the NBA. And then Friday, taking on the Suns to wrap up the NBA Cup pool play schedule, and closing the week yet again with the Portland Trailblazers on Sunday in Portland. Derek, what's going to be the best game of this week?
I do want to preface this segment with, this is not a banner week for an interesting live stream. I feel like a lot of these answers are pretty set in stone. So we have a lot of the same things. I didn't feel like getting out there and interesting just for the sake of doing it. Like, we do want to pick the actual correct thing. So I have best game as the Timberwolves. I think it is blatantly obvious that not only are the Timberwolves the best of these, but it is a Western Conference Finals rematch. This is a Timberwolves team that they could potentially face in the postseason again. They haven't been quite as good, but they are still one of the top guys in this Western Conference with Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, all these pieces. So I think it's very obviously the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Best game is Minnesota. Just for all the reasons that you mentioned, Minnesota's made 2 straight Western Conference Finals. They're going to be a interesting contender, an interesting measuring stick in this game. And it leads me to my best storyline of the week. I think that the best storyline is Ant versus Shai. They had some off-season shoe marketing discs. They're 2 of the stars in the NBA. It's going to be a lot of fun to see these 2 guys compete on ESPN, on primetime national TV for some stakes if you're an NBA Cup supporter, believer, truther. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see these 2 teams match up.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It would have been my best storyline as well. I doubt there's any legitimately bad blood there, but it will still be played up just as NBA narratives often are. And I think it is an interesting matchup. They're both highly competitive guys. They truly do want to go out and win. So very interesting storyline there. I have as a secondary follow-up best storyline, the NBA Cup just in general. I think it is kind of coming to a head that, the Thunder got blown out in last year's finals. It seems like they are playing as all these other teams are, with a little bit more edge in these cup games. So just excited to see how they fare in these cup games. If they make it, what happens then? So just tentatively keeping kind of a side eye on the NBA Cup in general.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see the first and last 2 home games of the NBA Cup pool play, where you get to see the NBA Cup court. That'll be a lot of fun. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited about seeing Minnesota. The most boring game of the week is the Portland Trailblazers. They have scuffled a little bit, obviously, due to some injuries, but they're 3-7 in their last 10 games, 7-10 overall this year. And it's just kind of to the point where it's like, we get it. Like we've seen the Thunder now play Portland 3 times on Sunday. It's all right. We can move on from the Portland matchup. And we don't know who will be healthy for that game, if they're going to have a point guard healthy for that game. So I'm just like not in to this Portland game.
Yeah, I mean, I again agree. It's not the Timberwolves. We'll talk about the Suns here in a minute, but they're spunky. We haven't seen them yet, which just inherently makes them more interesting. And then, as you touched on, we don't know if they're going to get their guys back. They might have a few, but I would certainly doubt that they're entirely healthy. So, yeah, I mean, this will be the third time. It's the most boring game of the week. But I will say, Portland is very much at that stage in the season where they're scrappy. We're now going to see whether this was just a nice start to the year, or if they truly can grind out some wins in the coming months and earn their way into potentially the play-in or just higher than we thought. So I think they are somewhat in the danger zone right now of, are they going to fall back further and more like we expected preseason, or are they really going to take that next step, which some people anticipate that they can take. So
both of our nerdy basketball watches are the same with the Suns, and I don't think that people have really woken up to just how fun the Suns are. They're 7th right now in defensive rating, which I just find to be shocking considering like the perception around the Suns, and I want to see that defense get tested by this Oklahoma City offense. They're 10th right now in offensive rating, and if you look at overall net rating, they're 10th. So they're top 10 in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating, which is hard to pull off and hard to accomplish. But you know, their defense is what really makes this game an interesting watch, on top of course, having Devin Booker.
100%. And more than anything, it's the most interesting watch for me because, again, we haven't seen the Suns, and the Thunder are like my measuring stick for everybody else. Like how these teams fare against the Thunder, win or loss, usually it's loss, is kind of how I base my opinion on them. So if this Suns defense comes out and they actually do well against the Thunder, even in a loss, then you know what? I'm there. I can consider this Suns team real and scrappy. And right now they're 6th in the West. Maybe I could consider them a postseason team, but if they come out and they flounder and the Thunder really expose certain things on either end, then, you know, maybe not so much will I consider them a postseason team. So I am excited to watch them. For all intents and purposes, they look like a really fun team to watch with Devin Booker, Grayson Allen. Don't know that he'll be playing, but they seem like a fun team. So I think it's rightfully both of our nerdy basketball watches.
Yeah, and that leads you to your most interesting opposing player. You had Devin Booker. Like, what are you loving about Devin Booker's game? What are you excited to see him go up against? Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, this Thunder defense.
Yeah, Devin Booker is just a truly stellar player. Like, he goes somewhat under the radar being that it is Phoenix, but he's having another awesome year, averaging a career high in assists. He's way better in playmaking and setting his teammates up than people give him credit for. And I'm excited to see him go against this Thunder defense because of all the players that could theoretically thrive despite the Thunder being so good at defense, Devin Booker is truly one of them. Like, he can get into any offensive spot he wants. He can play make, he can shoot, he can drive. Like, he's just a really dang good basketball player. And I'm excited to see how he fares with kind of this new look Phoenix team.
My most interesting player to watch is Anthony Edwards. I think that there is no bad blood between him and Shai, like you mentioned, but there is a healthy level of respect for these two players. And you even saw how like Anthony Edwards handled the loss in the Western Conference Finals to Shai and gave Shai his flowers like right after the game ended in an emotional moment, in an emotional series where, you know, they lost in 5 and Ant didn't statistically have his best series. However, I really think that Ant's series in the West Finals gets overshadowed because his teammates didn't come through for him. Like, he did his job. He didn't force the issue. He didn't kind of put the team in harm's way. He made the right reads, he made the right passes, and the guys happened to miss shots around him that made that series look even uglier than it probably should have. And so, like, the fact that he had that level of respect for Shai right out of the chute, and yes, they've done some sneaker beef after that one. You saw Shai and Converse release a commercial stomping out an Ant Hill and an Ant. You saw Anthony Edwards have Cat Williams come in and do a monologue against Shai. Like, it's interesting. I think it's a healthy respect, a healthy rivalry. And obviously these two guys are going to want to make a statement in this game. So I'm very interested to see this matchup. And of course, if Anthony Edwards can find more of a scoring rhythm against this Thunder team. And then you also look at, like, I know that right now in Minnesota, perhaps there's some regret about, moving on from Nickeil Alexander-Walker and banking on Jalen Clark, banking on Terrence Shannon Jr. But these have been guys who have been really competitive defending Shai, and that's tough to do. It's tough to have any environment where after the game we're talking about the level of defense being played on Shai and like noticing it, because Shai, Luka last night, like, Kamara is a great defender. Shai made him non-existent in that game. He scored over him at will. And it's like, can those guys who have not had the start to the season that they wanted to, while seeing that on the flip side of that, Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been spectacular for the Hawks, can they have a statement game? It just all ties back to Minnesota for me this week.
I agree. I think Minnesota is the most interesting for a myriad of reasons. And despite that, moving on to our record predictions, we both have 3-0. This is not necessarily surprising considering they're 17-1, and this would move them to 20-1. But I'm curious what you think. I think this will be one of their tougher undefeated weeks of this season, at least thus far. Like, moving forward, there's going to be some really tough stints, but beating Minnesota, Phoenix, and Portland in succession after the 9-game win streak that they're already on would be really tough in my mind. I think it's doable, obviously, as I'm predicting it, but curious what you think.
Yeah, this is for sure going to be their most impressive streak of the season if they can pull it off for a multitude of reasons. Number one, both Minnesota and Phoenix will be looking to make a statement. Minnesota wants to prove that yet again, although they're not like in the home court advantage area of the standings, and yes, they are trending to be a play-in team as of this very current moment in time, like, they want to prove that they still can compete with the top of the West. This is a team that, like, doesn't get into the conversation a lot when we're talking about contenders, but yet for the last 2 years, they've been in the Western Conference Finals back-to-back seasons. And like, you can't think of very many teams in NBA history who have gone to back-to-back conference finals and then were still glossed over each and every year in terms of like the contender list. And I think that they want to prove something in this game. Phoenix, I think, wants to prove that they're not just some happy-go-lucky, fun storyline. They're not some scrappy team. They're like legit. And I don't know if they are or not. I wouldn't consider Phoenix legit, but that's going to be their mindset heading into this game. And then Portland, yeah, like, Portland's not very good, but they're competitive and they've been a scrappy team for the last calendar year now. And it's hard to play a team 3 times in a month and find such success. Like, they got up by 20 in that one game that they lost this season to Portland. So like, they even had success against Portland in that game, and then they've blown them out. And then we'll see what they do on Sunday against Portland. But it's hard whenever you've gained such familiarity with each other to continue that trajectory. So if they go 3-0, like, this would be the most impressive 3-0 stint thus far this season for Oklahoma City in the midst of their incredible run. But that leads you to your biggest storyline of the week. What's the storyline prediction? We do this every week where we predict on Monday what's going to be the big talking point the next Monday from national NBA pods regarding the Thunder.
Yep, biggest storyline. And I want to give the caveat, as I always do, that I'm not saying this should be the storyline. I'm just trying to predict what the NBA narratives are, which often are just a load of honky. Like, it's not anything you want. So I think that the doomers of the rest of the NBA will be saying it is over for the NBA. The Thunder are 20-1. They have beaten these good teams that we have just touched on. I respect all of these basketball teams presently. If they go 3-0, I think that's going to be great. They'll be 20-1. The Nuggets, as of right now, they might not be in a week, but as of right now, are pretty injured, pretty banged up. Not saying they can't get healthy, but right now, the Rockets are kind of having a whatever. They're really good. They have a great net rating, but they've lost to the Thunder, the Pistons, the Spurs, and the Nuggets, which are like 4 of their best teams on the schedule. So they're having a little bit of a problem with big games right now. I don't know that anyone really sees them as a true contender in the West right now in terms of Oklahoma City. And then the East is down. Like, the Pistons are fun, but the Cavaliers, the Knicks, these guys are underachieving right now. So my prediction is that it's over. Like, the NBA fans are going to come out of the woodworks and say, let's just skip the season. They're going to do the thing where they're going to try to reverse psychology it. The Thunder, just give them the championship now. Like, we don't even want to watch the product. They're going to go get the top pick too. Like, I just think people are going to really, it's going to start to sink in when they're 20-1, with the Clippers still flailing, with the Jazz still winning games that they shouldn't be winning, that the Thunder are here to stay and they're going to be historically dominant.
I love this storyline prediction from you because it's exactly the same script that the league follows. Like, I know that we're in the midst of the first ever parity league that's ever hit the NBA, but typically we do see like decades dominated by one team, and we do see one team being the focal point. And there's going to be the same tones that there used to be with the Warriors. And I've been making that comparison for now literally 12 months. I talked about it last November. Like, they do the same things that those old Warrior teams do. They just do it in a different way. They do it with their defense. They do it with suffocating you and turning those into massive runs. Whereas the Warriors would do it by just bombing away threes, and they'd hit so many of them they just could not possibly overcome it. With the Thunder, it'll feel that same way of inevitability. And I think that your descriptions were perfect of like, the Nuggets are hurt, and like, are they going to click? And that's going to be the talking point with Denver. And then you look at Houston, and the storyline with Houston is going to be, yeah, they're having a good season, and I still expect them to win a lot of games this week, Houston, and I expect them to be in the top 3 of the West. But whenever people are talking about them as compared to the Thunder, they're going to knock that point guard room still, even though Reed Shepherd's playing a lot better now. Reed Shepherd will not play this way against Oklahoma City. You just cannot have him on the floor against the Thunder. And then nobody respects the Eastern Conference, especially if the Cavs take a loss this week again. And then it's just like, well, what's out there in the East besides our Detroit Pistons? Like, I don't know. My prediction for the end of the week storyline, I like yours a lot better. Mine's going to be that the Thunder are going to be in the NBA Cup final again. Like, people are going to start to predict them to make another run in the NBA Cup, just because I think that, like, we're at this point in the NBA season where, it's too soon really to like break down the possible playoffs, and there's going to be a push to like hype up the cup. So perhaps like they'll talk about the NBA Cup and talk about the Thunder going back and trying to win that one. I don't know. There's just not a lot of storylines to branch off of nationally.
I agree. I think it's a good storyline, again, just because I touched on it earlier. They got blown out in last year's Cup, and they have almost every other accolade for the last NBA season. They have the MVP. They've got multiple All-Stars. They won the NBA Finals. Like, whether you respect the Cup or not, this is one thing that has eluded them. So I think it could be a storyline of like, man, we just touched on that. We think they wanted to go beat Portland again because they lost to Portland. They got, I would say, slightly embarrassed in last year's Cup on like a national stage. For better or worse, everybody was watching it. So maybe they take that to 100 and they say, this year we're going to go get the Cup. And it looks blatantly apparent that they are jazzed for this. They're excited, and they want to go out and win it. So I think it's a good storyline.
That's what I got for my storyline. Before we go to the stock market, Coach Dennis asked us to start, bench, cut the following Thanksgiving foods: stuffing, green bean casserole, and turkey. Who are you starting, benching, and cutting of this group?
I have such a definitive answer. I don't know how you're feeling. Okay. I'm starting turkey. It is the primary protein. Turkey is an easy start for me. It's like, I'm a picky eater, which the chat, I'm sure, is going to have a field day with, but turkey is one of the only things Thanksgiving wise I'll even like relish. I don't love the rest of it. So starting turkey, 100%. I'm benching stuffing. Not a huge fan of stuffing, but I'm even less of a fan of GBC. And I know it's a bad take. I know it's bad. I know it. I know it is. I deserve everything I'm getting, but I am not a fan of green beans at all. They're my least favorite food ever. I'm not being hyperbolic. It is green beans, pickles, and jalapenos. So with that being the ranking, I'm benching green bean casserole. I'm sorry.
Wow. I'm starting green bean casserole.
I knew you would.
I love green bean casserole. I'm benching turkey and cutting stuffing of this trio. But Derek, let's go to the stock watch. Who are you buying and selling stock in? Who's number one on your list?
The first person I'm buying more stock in is Derek Queen, Pelicans rookie. He has played more under the new head coach. He's looked awesome offensively. He has looked better defensively than I anticipated. I was not out on Derek Queen, but again, I'm done draft stuff. I have a heat check up of Derek Queen, and in that heat check, I was pretty out on the defense, and especially the defensive intensity and try. There were times in his time at Maryland where took plays off or just didn't look necessarily engaged. So for as much as I liked the offense, I had to take those things into account on the defensive end. He has blown me away so far. He's been better on defense. The footwork's been great. He's coordinated. So again, I wasn't out on Derek Queen, but I probably didn't buy as much stock as I needed to or wanted to back then, just due to the fact that I didn't love his defense. So I'm down to add a little more now that I've seen that he can absolutely thrive in this NBA, which I think he will moving forward.
I like that. I would co-sign that stock. I'd buy with you on Derek Queen. I'm buying stock into these Suns, like not as a contender, not as like a championship threat, but I'm just buying stock into them being a truly fun team. And there's something to be said for that. Like again, they're not a contender, but after what the Suns fan base has been through with the disaster that was the Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal era, they deserve to have a fun little season where they get to the postseason, whether it be the play-in tournament or whether it be the actual playoffs. And they're just a nice team.
Yeah, I agree. Suns are gritty. I'm excited to watch them this year, as I touched on. Their defense, I think, is legitimate. They hustle, play hard. They don't even have Jalen Green yet, by the way. He's only played in 2 games. He has seen another hamstring injury. He's typically been a pretty healthy guy, so I am excited for him to get back. Rylan, I'm sure you are too.
Oh, I'm so excited. And I'm so glad that in the one game that he truly played in, like, because the second game he left after like 8 minutes with another injury. But in the one game he really played in, he dominated. He had 29 points on 50% shooting from the floor, 6 for 13 from beyond the arc. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He lived up to the hype in that game, the hype that only I have placed onto him. And everyone doubted me about my hype for Jalen Green and getting him free to the shackles of Şengün. And then he's had to sit on that game because he, again, only played 6 minutes in the next contest before getting hurt again. And so it's just so much better to kind of like only play in one great game versus having to sit on a bad outing. So I love that for Jalen Green. I cannot wait to see him getting back and getting healthy with this team.
I could not agree more with Adam Love's score. Joe Dumars was right for the pick, wrong for the price. That's completely correct. I'm sad that Derek Queen is even attached to this situation because, as Adam said, like, it was the wrong price, and it's going to continue to be no matter what happens. Like, whether they drop in the lottery or Derek Queen is a superstar, it was a bad decision, like 100%. But Derek Queen's a really fun player who doesn't deserve to have his name attached to this, so agree there. Sticking with the rookie theme, I was a Con Knipple believer. I had him 4th. I went and looked at my big board today. I was extremely complimentary of him all throughout the draft. Like, I've got plenty of YouTube videos saying it. Not only am I trying to buy as much stock as possible, I'm mortgaging everything. I already had as much stock. Now I'm selling the house to put that. I'm liquidating everything to put even more stock into Con Knipple. This is a long-winded way of saying he's been unbelievable. His ceiling is even higher than people like me that really liked him thought. He is outright the Rookie of the Year favorite right now, rightfully so. He is the sole hope for the Charlotte Hornets somehow against all odds. So Con's been great. It's been really fun watching him.
I'm not going to go that far with like mortgaging everything in my life over Con Knipple, but I am going to co-sign buying more stock into Con Knipple because he's been incredible for Charlotte and he's been a nice little piece for them. I'm selling some Bulls stock. We got a little bit over our skis on the Chicago Bulls start. I'm not selling it off completely, but we invested way too much in the Bulls. And so after they got it back in the win column, even in that win, Vucevic calling them soft on Saturday, like I'm selling a little bit of our all too high Bulls stock because we thought that they could have a season, a scrappy little season like the Raptors, like the Heat, who are home court advantage teams in the East still. You look now at the Bulls. They're right back in the play-in. They're right back being a 9-7 ball club. I think that we got a little bit too excited about the Bulls, so I gotta sell a little bit on the Bulls.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how ahead of our skis we got. I can't remember exactly what we said, but we both knew this was an option. Them coming back down to earth. They're still a fun team. As people in the chat have touched on, Kobe White is still working his way back. He's a really good player, so they can absolutely be fun. Josh Giddey, as you have said, is probably still going to be an all-star. Before we move on to more buying and selling, we have to touch on this next start bench cut from David. NFL football, Thanksgiving Day parade, or dog show. This is unbelievable. How are you feeling about this? Because I love all of these things a lot.
I'm going to start NFL football on Thanksgiving. I'm going to bench the Thanksgiving Day parade. I'm going to cut the dog show for the reason being, while the dog show is fun, I don't think it's the best dog event on television. I think that the Puppy Bowl before the Super Bowl is the best dog event on television. So for that reason, I'll go start NFL football and bench Thanksgiving Day parade, and then cut the dog show.
I'm going to start NFL football as well. It's almost like spiritually linked to Thanksgiving. Like, you couldn't you couldn't even get near cutting it, much less benching it. So we'll start NFL football. I'm benching the dog show. If I like anything, it's a nice dog show, dude. All the different categories. I have 2 dachshunds myself. I'm sure they've been heard on this here live stream before. So let me tell you right now, they're not winning any dog show. Not that pretty, but yeah. And then I'll cut the Thanksgiving Day parade, which again I like. I like seeing all the different floats, but it's not making the cut here. So that was
the reason I swayed to the parade is that at least the parade gets a second of screen time for me. Like if you're mapping out Thanksgiving Day on my television screens, plural, no big deal, not a flex, but plural. Thanksgiving Day parade gets some screen time. Not a lot. The second the Lions kick off, it's all football for the rest of the day. The dog show doesn't get a second of action on my screen.
Really?
So I have to then cut them.
Interesting. Okay, back to buying and selling. This one hurts to say a little bit. I'm buying stock in Klay Thompson. I'm not even going to recap the whole situation because if you want to find it, you can see it. At what point did we get to where we're not respecting Klay Thompson as a player in general? This guy's a 4-time champion.
So what are you buying? Are you buying the fact that he shouldn't be disrespected, or are you buying him as a player?
I'm buying the fact that Klay Thompson should not be disrespected, much less by the person doing the disrespecting. As a player, sure, he is not what he was. But to say that this guy hasn't had a storied career, you're a bum now, like that is so disrespectful to a guy who has won championships, done a lot for the game of basketball in terms of like history and playing for the teams that he did. And I never thought I'd see the day where I side with Klay Thompson in these because typically he's the one pointing to his ring finger and things like that I don't like. But I thought he very succinctly summed up the situation with his post-game interview. And I am buying just a little bit of Klay Thompson stock because I'm on his side here.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with I'm buying the fact that Ja was the one in the wrong of that skirmish where Ja calls him a bum and then Klay eviscerates him in the post game, talking about how Ja never takes accountability, never says anything of intelligence, which I totally agree with from Klay Thompson. So I guess I agree with you. When you first put this on the outline, I thought perhaps you were buying the dip and you believed in a Klay Thompson bounce back.
No,
but now I agree with you that I agree with you. He should not be disrespected as a legend of the game.
Well, and even more than that, again, who's doing the disrespecting
not
here?
From
certain people can levy their accolades against Klay Thompson's. Certain people in this situation cannot. No. So, yeah, no.
I mean, John's biggest accomplishment is getting suspended 3 times and then finally not getting suspended this season so far. So it's like John Morant's done nothing in this game and probably will do nothing in this game, quite frankly. My number 3, though, speaking of John Morant, I'm buying low on the Memphis Grizzlies. Zach Edey was awesome against the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm buying low on the Memphis Grizzlies in the sense of them being a team who does take away a play-in spot and take up a play-in spot for this season in the Western Conference.
I'm going to stick with my preseason take. I don't believe in the team that much at all.
Pull the ripcord at some point.
What do you mean?
You believe that they're going to eventually go the opposite way of just tanking, a soft tank.
Yeah.
You still believe that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to stick with it at this point. I feel like we're closer to that. Not again, you're buying stock because you think they can get there, but the reality is that you are buying low. So I do feel like we're closer right now. A lot of season left, but closer right now to my take. So I have to stick with it. But I agree. I like a buy low. It doesn't always work out, but you're at least risking it for the biscuit, and I can respect it. Zach Edey is fun. He was an undervalued draft pick. I will say that.
Number 4, I'm going to buy SGA's 3-point shot. I think it's here to stay. I think that this will be a 40% shooter this season because of the quality of looks that he's getting. Even the more difficult ones, like his step back, looks a whole lot better this year than it ever has before. And this has been a part of his game he's been trying to craft for a couple of years now of trying to implement this step back even more. He's doing it now more efficiently than ever. I believe that he's made a jump in 3-point efficiency.
I agree. I think it looks good. And I think that's coupled, Daily Ding. I think it's coupled by the fact that the Thunder have even more gravity than they've had before. So he's going to continue to get even easier 3-point looks moving forward, which is great. selling some Knicks stock. I was high on the Knicks. I had them as number 1 in the East. I thought their coaching situation was going to be a major positive moving forward. I really believed in the team construct as a whole. And they have not proven me correct so far. Again, just caveat to every single one of these things we're saying, but it is a long season. They can always find their groove, but I picked them as an outright number 1 seed. I picked them to make the finals versus the Thunder. And right now, they're not necessarily looking spectacular on either end. They've had some rough losses. They're moving down the standing. So I'm selling a little bit of the Knicks. I still believe they can be what I thought, but no reason to hang on to all this stock when they're showing what they're showing right now.
I would agree that I need to sell a little bit of my Knicks stock because I was way high on them preseason, but I'm not selling a ton of it. But I am buying even more Cleveland stock. 7-3 in their last 10 games, 2-game winning streak for them, 12-6 right now, 3 games back of that 1 seed in the East. Like, I think that we're so ready to move on so quickly in this society today that like we're just ready to talk about Detroit. We're ready to talk about these new teams. Cleveland, to me, it's so easy to crutch on the fact that they've not had the playoff success. But as long as they get healthy for the playoffs and they stay healthy in the playoffs, I'm still buying on Cleveland.
Last one, I'm buying Yang Hansen stock. Portland Trailblazers first-round draft pick. He played last night. Didn't play necessarily well. He's just such a fun player, and I feel like he's so obviously a guy that's going to figure things out eventually. So much feel for the game as a center. He can shoot it. Again, didn't shoot particularly well, but has some nice post moves. Gonna eventually be one of the best big man passers in the league if they give him the opportunity to operate with the ball in his hands a lot. So he was not a player I evaluated highly in my time covering the 25 draft, but then watching Portland take him wherever they took him, I think it was 17, that signals to me that they are serious about him because he, for many, was a second round grade guy. It signals to me that that was their guy. They went out and got him, and eventually he's going to be a part of their process. So that's just fun. I just wanted to mention Yang Hansen real quick because he's awesome.
Yeah, rightfully so, mentioning him. Before we get our technical fouls in, we have a couple more start bench cuts. This one from David. Start bench cut, apple pie, pumpkin pie, pecan pie.
This is gonna be an all-time. I know I'm gonna get teched up. I know for a fact I'm gonna be teed up. I don't eat pie at all. I don't.
No
I've
pie
never
whatsoever enters your gullet.
I've never had any of these ever. I don't like pie.
Never having them is insane. That is tea-worthy.
I've maybe had like the McDonald's version where it's in the little like thing. I tried it. I didn't like it. I'm not a massive desserts guy. I don't like cake. I don't like pie. Yeah. I'm a brownie go-to, so I deserve the tech, but I can't weigh in. You got it from here. The floor is yours. I believe you.
You start pecan pie every day of the week, best pie. For Thanksgiving in particular, you bench pumpkin pie and then cut apple pie. For just pies in general, you start pecan still no matter what. It's like that scene in Draft Day where it's like Vontae Mac no matter what. Pecan pie no matter what. For Thanksgiving in particular, it's pecan, pumpkin, and then apple. For everyday life, it'd be pecan, apple, and then pumpkin. But yeah, that's the rankings. And then you perhaps can't even mention this one either. Pumpkin spice, peppermint mocha, or apple cider.
Just one thing on the pie. Could I have my technical rescinded if I try it this holiday season?
Yes.
If I go out and I try, the most enticing to me sounds like apple pie. If I go try an apple pie this year,
yeah. I mean, you have to try. You have to try them
rescind it. Okay, all of them.
Yeah, a little bite, at least a bite of all three.
Okay, for the listeners, I'll do it. And to have my technical rescinded, I'll do it.
We'll follow it up next week. With the board, and then pumpkin spice latte, peppermint mocha, and apple cider. I'm gonna start peppermint mocha. I love it so much. I'm drinking one right now. Shout out to the old Bucks. Starting peppermint mocha, benching apple cider, cutting pumpkin spice latte. I'm not a pumpkin spice guy at all.
I agree. I don't know how well I can speak to this as well, but I like your list.
Well, let's get into our technical fouls, Derek. And you have, as always, a crazy one.
Got my AP article pulled up. Missouri judge who wore an Elvis wig and often played his music in court agrees to step down. A Missouri judge who wore an Elvis Presley wig in his courtroom and played the singer's music from his phone during court proceedings has agreed to a deal that would cut his career on the bench short.
That's a technical foul.
This is crazy in and of itself, but more than anything, I wanted Rylan's reaction to this because I'm sure many of longtime listeners know that he is an Elvis guy. Even this is insane, right? Like actively at your job, wearing a wig, playing the music. Even you can't agree with this.
Well, if your job is a keeper of the peace and your job is to be a judge, it's a time and place scenario. If your job is mine, I frequently listen to Elvis while doing my job, but I'm not on here playing Unchained Melody during our podcast. So it's like I'll play it while I'm writing. I don't play it while I'm doing a show. So a time and place thing, and also place being you didn't do this in Vegas. Okay, the judge wears an Elvis costume and plays Elvis music. That's perfectly normal. Like Elvis also gets you married. He also has impersonators out in Vegas. This is a bridge too far, even for me. What you do behind closed doors is whatever it is. But as a judge in the robe, you cannot be with a wig and playing Elvis music. Even I will agree that's a technical foul and a bit too far.
That's a technical foul.
But I do love the passion. I do love the passion for Biggie. That judge no longer taking care of business. But my technical foul, Derek, is to my left ear.
That's a technical foul.
Still hasn't popped yet. And I'm getting very frustrated with it. But the show goes on, battling through adversity, battling through injury. Don't ever say I don't put myself on the line for the Locked On Thunder podcast and for all of you everydayers. But Derek, this has been fun. Any words of wisdom to end the show?
Don't wear an Elvis wig and play Elvis music and do your job. You can do it at home. You don't have to do it at work. No one's going to like it. Maybe Rylan. No one else will like it.
I will say if you have a desk job that's not ruling the nation and not ruling the county lines, then you can do it at your job. But anything else, don't do it. No show from you and I on Thursday. I'm giving you the day off Thursday to enjoy Thanksgiving. There will be still a live stream on Thursday, though, 3:30 p.m. Central Time with Jeremy Lamb and Tyler Jones, our squad show. We're gonna do it on Thursday on the holiday, so make sure you tune in for that. Derek, this has been fun. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.